Release date, November 14th, 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of TBD CFB with your hosts, I'm Mason.
And I'm Joey.
And I'm Isaac.
This is Season 5, Episode 15. We are coming at you on a Thursday night, premiering right here on YouTube. We got our Week 12 preview. Guys, we are already 12 weeks through the regular season. Well, not technically. We're almost through 12 weeks. But we're going to start out quickly with our pick records. We had some oopsies this week. Joey, who is now back in third place after the tiebreaker is no more between me and Isaac. He went 3-2 last week and is now overall 33-25. I am now in second place. We had our first donut pop up this week as I went 0-5 in week 11. I'm now 3 games back, and in first place is Isaac, obviously, who went 3-2 in week 11, is now an overall of 39-21. I don't really know what to say. I don't know what happened. I thought my for sure picks were going to win. Thought I was going to get at least one. I thought Georgia was going to win. Thought LSU was going to win, and picked Michigan over Indiana. Was actually almost right about that one, and then I also picked Vandy over South Carolina, so just not good for your boy this week. However, we do have our best picks. They are both by Isaac and Joey, because Isaac and Joey, I don't know if you realize this, but you guys picked together on every single game last week. So first one, picking South Carolina over Vandy. Isaac, why did you pick South Carolina over Vandy?
I'm going to be honest. Start of the week, I was like, yep. I was planning it out. I was like, I got Vandy. I'm going to bet on them. Like, I like the Doors. Give me the boys from Nashville. And then we got on the pod, and I was like, South Carolina's really been balling. Vandy, I was like, South Carolina, on all intents, really, honestly, should have 2 more wins. They should have beat LSU, and they should have beat Bama. Started talking through it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with the Cox. It was kind of a last-second decision, but I was like, yeah, they've been balling. Vandy has been good, but South Carolina, they've really been playing well. They cooked up on Oklahoma just 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, kind of a last-second change of hunch, if you will. But, yeah, I'm glad I went with the Cox because they got another win on pick record.
Yeah, sometimes you can come on this, or come into the show being like, I know exactly who I'm going to pick. I know exactly what's going to happen. I got all these things that I'm thinking about. And then you get to the actual pick and you're just like, am I really confident in that? Like last week, I actually kind of wanted to pick Ole Miss over Georgia, and I wish I would have. However, I was a little too confident. Get to that in a second. Joey, you also picked South Carolina. What'd you think?
To be completely honest with you, I just felt like South Carolina had the most momentum going into the game. Both teams had momentum, don't get me wrong, but South Carolina seemed to be having the most of it. Also, a little bit of, I wouldn't necessarily call it drama, but, Vanderbilt quarterback suing the NCAA. Very interesting move there. It got denied as of today of the recording. But yeah, just, South Carolina having more momentum and maybe Vanderbilt's quarterback not having his head in the right place. It just felt like the right pick, though.
South Carolina actually did something that neither Texas nor Alabama was able to do, beat Vandy at home at their place by double digits. So that's something to think about. And that's exactly why I picked Vanderbilt. They got the big win over Alabama, who's actually looking really good right now. They also almost beat Texas. They only lost by 3, but ended up coming up short. Couldn't get the onside kick. Couldn't either one. Didn't get the onside kick and ended up losing that game. But I figured that I thought they had a lot of momentum. But yeah, I think that South Carolina, looking back on it now, had a ton of momentum coming out of that big win against A&M. I mean, absolutely outplanned them pretty much the entire game. Especially in the second half, just went off. Made Texas A&M make a lot of mistakes. So. I in hindsight probably should have picked South Carolina, but I thought Vandy would get the edge on them just because they were at home. The next and last game I want to talk about really quickly is actually, again, a best pick for both of y'all. You both picked Indiana over Michigan. I just wanted to say I didn't think that was all that bad of a pick. Michigan only lost by 2, 17-15. That was actually like one of my closer picks, actually the closest pick I had last week. What did you guys think? Why'd you pick Indy?
To be completely honest with you, when watching the game, it was my heart rate super high because I was like, there's no way Indiana loses this. But it was a really good game. I will give Michigan that. But again, it was just one of those confident picks. It was just one of those things. I felt most confident picking Indiana over Michigan. And that's just about it. Now, there's going to be a time where the reign of Indiana is going to end, and I will not be picking Indiana. But and going into that game, Michigan, their season is full of many woes, and the lack of cheating is showing. So Indiana just felt like the right pick for me.
And for me, honestly, I was rolling with the Hoosier train. Like, not that Michigan's bad, but Michigan is not Michigan of last year. And whether it's due to roster turnover, coaching changes, or the scandal, whatever it is, they're not the same national champion that we saw, 10 months ago. So I went with Indiana based on momentum, and I think it was a good pick. I did think Michigan would cover, and boy, they made it close. But yeah, I liked Indiana that one. I didn't think Michigan had the upper hand, and they didn't. But Indiana, their big test will be next week. They play Ohio State, so we'll see what happens there. But I like the Hoosiers this past weekend, so I got that one.
Yeah, we're all definitely excited about that game. It's going to be a big one. Once again, those are our best picks because we didn't have many more. We all picked LSU, and we all got it wrong. And we all picked Georgia. We all got that one wrong too. So
massive. Brian Kelly, you're next.
Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to pick some games for you guys. We got some big games coming up this week. We actually have more ranked matchups than we thought that we would have because the rankings came out on Tuesday. So we got a couple good ones for you. We're going to get into it, starting out with our game of the week. Isaac, why don't you tell the folks what our game of the week is?
Folks, our game of the week is going to be 7th-ranked Tennessee, the gaudy orange Volunteers, if you will, traveling to 12th-ranked Georgia in Athens on Saturday night at 7:30 p.m.
And a big game it shall be. We are in for a good one here. Last time Tennessee came to our place, we absolutely put the smack down on them. ESPN FPI actually says Georgia has a 62% chance to win this game, and the spread is actually Georgia by 10, which is surprising considering the loss that Georgia's coming off of. But we'll get to that in a minute. Tennessee, they're sitting at one loss. They're coming off a solid win against Mississippi State, and they're looking to come to Athens and get their first win against Georgia since 2016. And they're still in the running for the SEC championship. Actually, like we mentioned on Wednesday, after we watched the rankings, they have one loss to Arkansas earlier this season, but they have that big win over Bama. So they're still in the running for that championship. Georgia, however, coming off their first loss to a team not named Alabama since 2020 after they lost to Ole Miss on the road. And it is their first loss to Ole Miss since 2016. I want to talk about Georgia just for a second. I'm gonna get up on a little soapbox here. Georgia seems to be going up and down. They're winning close games, and then they're absolutely having blowouts. Like they barely beat Kentucky 13-12. They get past Florida by 14, but that really wasn't the score because it was 20-20 with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then we see them go and blow out Clemson and Texas, but we've seen them get blown out now by Ole Miss. So even though UGA is sitting at 7-2 right now, the only thing I can say about this team is I have to put a question mark on them. I don't know who this team is. I don't know which version of my team is going to show up one week to the next. They're incredibly inconsistent. I think this Georgia team is incredibly talented, but they just haven't executed well at all. So I just don't think that we've been as good. I just don't think we're that good this year, honestly. I had a sliver of hope after the first couple of weeks. Even I had even more hope after we beat Texas so bad, and then we come out against Florida like we did and Ole Miss and just lost everything. We're just not as good on both sides of the ball. Like Kirby Smart's been saying, we just don't have any depth anymore. And I got to say this, guys. Mike freaking Bobo has got to absolutely go. I mean, dude, we're down by 15 with 3 minutes left. It's like 2nd and 20, and Mike Bobo's like, run a screen. We got to run a screen. It's got to be a screen, guys. It's going to be huge. All right, we're going to run a screen. It's like, dude, stop running screen passes. Stop running touch passes. Like, do anything else. Move the ball down the field. Like, what are we doing, guys? He's not the guy. He's got to go. We've got to get rid of this dude. And I want to talk Carson Beck, too. Has he played his best ball this year? Absolutely not. Far from it. However, Our wide receiver core leads the nation. The freaking nation in dropped passes. You know who's below us? UAB. UAB got beat by Tulane 72-21. And we have more dropped passes than they do. I'm not really on board with the Carson Beck hate. I mean, yeah, he's like throwing a lot of freaking picks. And yes, we did lose Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, like who were always automatic. But I am here for freaking tell the receivers to do your job and catch the freaking ball. Speaking of quarterbacks, we're going to move on from that now. Josh Heupel did say that early in this week that Nico should be, keyword should be, good to go this weekend against Georgia. Nico is currently at 65% completion rating with 1,879 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. I would actually say Carson Beck has the edge here because he's actually over 2,000 passing yards. He's got more touchdowns, but he's got 7 more interceptions than Nico does, which is crazy. So I'd like to say that he has the edge, but I don't know because maybe if we had the wide receivers that can catch a ball consistently, we would win or get close to winning. But Tennessee, man, they got a really tough defense. I think this will be one of the toughest defenses besides Ole Miss that Georgia will face this year. And I think the same thing for Tennessee. Tennessee's only had 2 SEC road games so far this year against Oklahoma, where they won. Yeah, but we've seen how Oklahoma is. And against Arkansas, where they lost to a team that's not been so great. I mean, they lost to Ole Miss by 30 points. And Tennessee lost to them on the road. They've also had a close game against Florida. And I did a little math earlier for you guys. I want you guys to know they only average in the first half. Tennessee only averages in the first half 7 points. But in 3 games this season against Florida, Arkansas, and Alabama, they scored 0 points in the first half. And in one other game, they scored 3. And in another game, they scored 7. But 3 games they haven't scored in the first half. Now, on the other hand, though, I wanted to mention this. Georgia has not played well in the first half either this season. They are both second-half teams. So this could be a really good defensive matchup with 2 quarterbacks who are prone to make mistakes. And then also in the back half of the game, we could see 2 championship-caliber teams come out of nowhere. And I think the grittier one's going to win. I think the biggest advantage for Georgia, though, is that this game is at home. What do you guys think? Joey, you're picking first.
I mean, I think that with this Tennessee team, they're honestly a pretty good team. I just think that a lot of their leading players are young. And, you know, their defense is great, but their offense is running into some inconsistencies. And where we saw Tennessee the past few years being more of an air raid type team, they're more so relying on Sampson to, you know, run the ball put the ball on the ground and kind of not actually put the ball on the ground, just run the ball. Right. And, you know, when it comes to Georgia against Ole Miss, the run game, it was there. Meanwhile, you know, Ole Miss was able to air out the ball, get past the secondary. There's only really one receiver I can think of or have in mind for Tennessee that I think can beat the secondary, and that's Squirrel White. He's very phenomenal. He's a phenomenal wide receiver.
Oh, he's done it before. He can do it again.
Absolutely. But I will have to say the game being in Athens, I know going into this game, Kirby is going to be saying, oh, the narrative's against us. Oh, no. Nobody wants the Dogs. And then the Dogs are going to come out and probably like put up 50 in the first half. Carson Beck will be on the bench for majority of that. But no, I'm just kidding. But I think Georgia wins this. I want Tennessee to win this. I'm sorry. I do. I just think it would be more interesting for playoff wise for Tennessee to win it. But yeah, I got Georgia winning this one.
So at first glance, I almost go with the Vols. Dylan Sampson has been balling that running back room. You know, I'll be honest. I know Georgia's run defense has been strong, but Georgia overall has struggled, especially offensively. You got to score points to win. Just ask Tennessee, you know, against Arkansas, right? With this game being in Athens, I am going to take Georgia. I think this will be a really close game. I know it's a 10-point spread. I do not think that Georgia covers personally. I like Georgia somewhere between 7 and 9. I think it's a one, maybe barely a 2-score game. But I do think Georgia wins this game by virtue of being in Athens. But man, I think Tennessee makes it close. I think Dylan Sampson scores a couple of touchdowns from the backfield, and they put up a fight. Nico, as long as Nico plays, if Nico doesn't play, then I think Georgia walks all over him. But if Nico plays, it's a different ball game. But I like Georgia and Athens on Saturday from the Hedges.
Man, this is kind of tough for me as a fan because Heupel really wants this win, guys. He really wants this win. You can tell he's getting his team ready for it. I think that Tennessee's got a really good team. I think that we have a really talented team, but we just don't execute well. Back when we picked Alabama versus Georgia, something that I did is I picked Alabama, and what I said is you need to prove it to me because I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. I don't think you can beat Alabama. And I was right. They didn't. They went on the road and did not win. And I'm in the same boat here. I'm picking Tennessee this week. I just don't trust the dogs right now. Can't do it. I'm going to pick the Vols to come into Athens and win. I think that Georgia has the advantage here. It's at home. They have the better defense. I think that they have the better offense. But with the way our wide receivers are playing right now and the way that we're not able to get the ground game going and the way Tennessee's defense is played, I mean, the team that just scored or the quarterback that just ran all over LSU got stopped, in the first half and in the entire game for 4 quarters. They're going to be able to do that to us on the road. I guarantee it. So give me the Vols and give me the defense against Georgia this week. I'm not confident in it. I see a score of 21-20. I think this is an incredibly close game. I think our defense, can play well. But, man, if Nico is able to throw the ball all over us just like Jackson Dart was and we can't stop the pass, just like we couldn't with our trash secondary. And I didn't think it was going to be trash. After Clemson, I really didn't. I thought KJ Bolden is a stud. I thought Malachi Starks is a stud. But after kind of seeing how things have played out and how many points that we gave up in a lot of the games, I'm starting to feel like, we have some issues. So give me Tennessee to get their first win on the road in Athens since 2016, or just first win against Georgia since 2016. And something else I wanted to point out too, real quick, is that a lot of our streaks have been broken this year. 42-game regular season win streak, gone. Win streak against teams not named Alabama, gone. And home, I think honestly this weekend, home win streak of however many games over the last 4 years, gone. So that's my guess, and I hate it, but prove me wrong, Georgia. That's all I've got to say.
With that being said, our next game Saturday at 12 p.m., number 20 Clemson versus unranked Pittsburgh. Now, let's go over this a little bit. ESPN FPI has Clemson with a 69% chance to win this game, and the spread being Clemson by 10. Let's go over this a little bit because I think we're all looking at this game and going, I don't know. All right, so Clemson starts off the season and nobody has faith in them after the first game. I mean, first half it was like, oh wow, okay, we have a chance. Second half, Georgia just said, you know what, move. So Clemson being demolished 34-3. Me myself had no faith in the team after that, but they did end up being one of the top offenses in college football for a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. But here's the issue. The defense. At first we thought, well, they're putting in their backups of the backups. Well, then we came to playing Virginia. And then it was, okay, there's an issue. But eventually we got it to where the backups of the backups were in towards the end of the game. And then Louisville came. Let me tell you, I don't typically have no faith in Clemson at a night game at Clemson, but going into that game, something felt off. And you know what? It was off. Clemson lost to Louisville. We didn't even lose to Louisville with Lamar Jackson, but we lost to Louisville. It wasn't necessarily because our defense didn't play well. Granted, they gave up 33 points, but the Louisville defense who could not stop a freaking drive against Miami to win the game. Yeah, they held us to 21 points. So what happened to one of the top offenses in college football? And then struggling against Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech, yes. Now Pittsburgh. Oh, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looking like a really confident team, possible ACC championship contender. until they just recently dropped 2 games in a row to SMU, which is a solid loss. And then Virginia with a controversial 4th and 1 call that they got a redo because the referees weren't ready. Whoa. Now, we're going into individuals here. Cade Klubnik, arguably still one of the better quarterbacks in the college football league right now. 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 2,275 yards. Yes, Mason, that is 4 interceptions, not 4D like Carson Beck. Pittsburgh. Sorry,
but
just rolling.
Are you wrong though?
Now,
if you guys are wondering where my head is with this Georgia football team, I'm here. That's right where I am.
Mason, this is going to make you a little more sad because Eli Holstein on Pittsburgh, freshman quarterback.
Holstein is a dog. I've been saying it all year.
Freshman quarterback, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, not 6D, and 2,174 yards. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, this isn't necessarily a battle of the quarterbacks because at the end of the day, we know both quarterbacks are going to show up. I mean, even in a bad game against Virginia Tech, Cade Klubnik went out and threw 3 touchdown passes against Virginia Tech. Here's the thing. Will the defenses show up? We know that when a wonderful player named Desmond Reed, and if you don't know him, a fellow Western Carolina Catamount transferred to Pittsburgh. When he does not perform well on the ground, Pittsburgh does not perform well overall. All right. So let's look at this a little bit. Desmond Reed, 145 yards rushing, 148 yards rushing the first 2 games. He drops off against West Virginia. Scary game against West Virginia. And then, he's kind of quiet against Youngstown State because he's not really playing. North Carolina, 155 receiving yards from Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed, the next game against California, has 120 rushing yards. The past 3 games, even here, the next 2 games, Syracuse and SMU, Desmond Reed could not hit 50 yards rushing. Against Virginia, he hit 80. But that was it. So when Desmond Reed is not performing, Pittsburgh's offense seems to stall out. So it really comes down to whose defense can stall out the offense. So with that being said, Isaac, good luck, buddy.
So I'll say this. Given Eli Holstein's performance on my dynasty when he transferred to LSU as a 5-star transfer in the portal, I like Pitt in this one. But this is not me on the controller. This is for real. This game is at Pitt. I know Clemson only beat Virginia Tech by 10 this past week, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Tigers in this one. I don't know they'll cover. I think maybe a touchdown. Might be a 10-point win. It'll be close. But I do think they will beat Pitt. I think Pitt got absolutely throttled by Southern Methodist the other week. And, now they dropped out of the rankings. I think Clemson is hanging on for a shot in the ACC race. And I think they're going to take it out on Pitt on Saturday at noon. So, yeah, give me the Tigers on Saturday. The other ones, Mr. Cheeto, that is.
Boy, this one is this one's really tough, I think. I don't know about you guys, but this is actually a really tough one. I was looking at it. The last time Pitt and Clemson played, it was actually played in Pittsburgh, and Pitt ended up winning. Now, that was, to be fair, that was when DJ Uiagalelei was still quarterback. But will history repeat itself here? That's the thing I don't know. I think Joey makes a really good point. I think you do have 2 really good defenses. I think it's going to come down to offense, and I think it's going to come down to the run defense. Honestly, if Clemson can stop Desmond Reed, that takes away the pass, even though Eli Holstein is a dog. But Pitt gets dropped out of the rankings. They have 2 losses now. Clemson still sitting at 2 losses. I really want to pick Pitt, but I'm gonna have to go with Clemson. I think Pitt can definitely win this game with a spread of 10 points. I'm gonna pick Clemson, but I'm gonna have Pitt to cover the spread. So give me Clemson by 6. I'm gonna say 6. I think this is gonna be like 31-24. That's what I see, or 21. Yeah, 30-24, something like that. That's what I got.
So you already know I'm going to be picking Clemson, but I will tell you this. Clemson has shown that when it's a legitimate team, and yes, I include Virginia Tech in that conversation, they have their struggles. I will also say, I still remember the day in 2016, playoff hopes alive, and Clemson let Pittsburgh in and lost. But we still made the playoffs that year. But it was a tough game, and I will never forget that. And something tells me that this could be one of those moments where Clemson's still in the ACC running, but Pitt could come in and ruin all of that. But I still got my Tigers in this one. Hopefully it's not a close one. Hopefully we kind of demolish them like we have been the past few years until DJ decided to ruin our team just like the other teams he touched. So yeah,
you literally have
I got
not.
Tigers.
He is bad luck everywhere he goes.
All right, folks, fresh off a TBD triple pick, the first one of week 12 here, we're going to go into our next game, which is going to be 25th ranked Tulane, the Green Wave, rolling into Annapolis, Maryland to take on freshly unranked Navy, the Naval Academy, at 12 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday at noon, I guess it would be. The ESPN FPI has Tulane at 74% chance to win, and the spread officially has Tulane by a touchdown at 7. This one I'm really excited about as someone who's kind of followed Tulane all season just by virtue of them being a fellow Louisiana team with my Tigers. I've just kind of followed them this year, and they've put up a pretty good run in the American. Both teams this weekend sitting at 2 losses. Navy got boat raced, if you will, by Notre Dame. Get it? And then again, lost to Rice the next week by 18. I really thought that game would be a lot different. I did not foresee them losing that game that poorly. I know Rice played Tulane really closely, but I did not foresee Navy losing by that much. Tulane, on the other hand, hasn't lost a game since week 3 when they lost back-to-back games against Kansas State and Oklahoma. And let's just get real. They should have beaten Kansas State, but because of a horrible offensive pass interference call, they would end up losing. A very, very fun game to watch that Saturday in New Orleans. Watched it on the TV, and of course, they got the penalty to lose the game. Now, what's at stake here? A lot for both teams. For Navy, the American Championship is still on the table if they get a win this weekend. Only having one conference loss, if they take down Tulane and go undefeated in the conference from here on out, they would have the tiebreaker over the Green Wave. However, for Tulane, the American Championship is still on the table, but the playoff would be off the table with a loss this Saturday. The highest-ranked Group of 5 team will get the 5th auto bid spot this year, and right now it looks like it's going to come down to Army and Tulane out of the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. Tulane needs a win this Saturday to stay in the running for the playoffs. Navy has Blake Horvath at quarterback, who is both their leading passer and leading rusher, which if you follow the Navy's football, it's not surprising because they love to run the triple option. Horvath has just over 1,150 yards and only has 117 attempts on the season. So as you can see, not a very pass-heavy offense through 10 games. Tulane's quarterback, Darian Mensah, has just over 2,000 total yards and has thrown 16 touchdowns and 4 picks. This game is at home for Navy, and the main thing they have going for them is their defense, as they have 21 sacks for 127 yards for loss on the season. But this may be the toughest. This may be the toughest defense in the conference Tulane has faced yet. I'm not going first. Mason, who you got?
I did just want to say, I think that also that it's probably going to be Boise State. They're probably going to be the highest ranked Group of 5 team that gets the auto bid into the playoffs. However, that does not mean that Tulane cannot make the playoffs. They just got to have a lot of things go in their direction, right, guys? So, man, a lot at stake here. I do think this is one of the tougher defenses in conference. I mean, we haven't always seen it. I mean, they have lost to Rice. They got absolutely destroyed by Notre Dame. But these are teams that are pretty good. But I'm going to take Tulane here, and here's why. Tulane has a lot more at stake, a lot more to lose, and they have not lost a game since they played a Power 5 opponent in week 3. I mean, like I said last Tuesday, they beat UTSA 62. No, I think it might have been in the 70s. It might have been like 71 to 14. It was an absolute demolishment of that team. They've just played and scored so many points on everybody they've played, and I don't think that's going to change this weekend. Give me the green wave on Saturday.
Yeah, so really, I have a hard time picking Navy in this. You know, the loss to Notre Dame, the loss to Rice right after, and meanwhile, Tulane is rolling, including beating my North Texas Green Machine. I gotta pick Tulane. They're rolling, they're hot, and they're looking good. Their pieces are coming together. And I'm just excited to see how it comes down in the AAC.
So let me just say, because nobody's pointed it out yet, I love, and I repeat to you, love Tulane's uniforms. Okay, it's an odd combo. Like the other week, they were black with the hunter green with like the Carolina bluish teal. But God, it's so nice. With that said, give me the green wave on Saturday in Annapolis. I do think they cover. I like Tulane by a touchdown. Maybe not much more than that. I think Navy does give them a run, but historically, of course, Navy's defense is good this year. But historically, they don't fare well against high-powered offenses. I don't see that changing this weekend. Tulane's played really well. I like the green wave this weekend, and hopefully we get some nice jerseys to go with it.
That'll take us into our next game. This is a game I did not expect to be a ranked matchup on Tuesday, but now it is. This is number 23 Missouri versus number 21 South Carolina at 4:15 p.m. The ESPN FPI says that South Carolina has a 70% chance to win this game. The spread is also South Carolina favored to win by 12. Somehow this Missouri team is still ranked. We've thought a lot about them. The team that scored one touchdown against A&M, scored no points against Bama, and almost got taken to OT by Oklahoma, but Jackson Arnold fumbled the ball for a scoop and score. So without Brady Cook, this team is absolutely cheeks. Like Josh Pate said, they're just a bad football team, man. They have no business being ranked. I mean, their two losses are just absolutely horrendous. Almost had a third possibly to Oklahoma. South Carolina, though, they're looking good right now. And you know what? Playoffs for South Carolina are probably not out of the question, but they're not an absolute yes. They have got to have a lot of things go their way. It seems that Missouri, they've kind of regressed each week, gotten worse and worse and worse. South Carolina, they've always been a pretty good team. They just haven't had some things go their way, but they took down a red-hot A&M team and an absolutely extremely gritty Vanderbilt team. Is it that cut and dry, though? Like what I mean by that is it really just like, well, there's Missouri and they haven't played well, and there's South Carolina and they've played extremely well right now. Is Brady Cook going to be available? Eli Drinkwitz said he's not going to release that information until tomorrow. And how much is that going to change the game? Like, what do you guys think?
Personally, for me, I don't think it changes the game all that much. I think that South Carolina is rolling, and one big concern is, at the beginning of the season was, are they able to pass the ball, or are they just going to be one of those running teams? And honestly, the past two games, South Carolina has shown they can throw the ball and run the ball at the same time. Granted, they were both blowout wins. So if it's a close game, what's going to happen, right? Meanwhile, Missouri, they've kind of shown they can get blown out, but, so did LSU. Personally, I just don't see Missouri as that great of a team, even with Brady Cook on it. They've been struggling offensively. Defensively, it's just not there. So I got South Carolina. I got South Carolina to win this game. Maybe they'll lose to Wofford. Who knows?
No chance.
Never say never, my guy. As a Duke basketball follower, I know all too well. Mercer happens. Not to be confused with MRSA, the disease. Please get your vaccinations. Anyway, yeah, I don't see Mizzou. That was freaking funny. All right. Listen, yeah, I don't see Mizzou as a great team either. I don't think even with Brady Cook, I think that as a whole, they've just really struggled this season. I mean, they took them down to the wire to beat Auburn at home. They got They got lucky against Oklahoma this past weekend. They got throttled by Bama, who, remains to be seen whether or not they're actually, a top 10 team now. As an LSU fan, I know all too well that they can win games, and sometimes they can win them big. With that said, yeah, I've also got the Cox on Saturday. I like South Carolina to cover. I think South Carolina probably about 2 touchdowns. I think it'll be a good game for South Carolina. I don't think Mizzou's that great, and South Carolina's been balling. And they, by the way, just throttled Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, who just lost to Mizzou in horrendous fashion this past weekend. So, yeah, give me South Carolina on Saturday. I like them by 2 tutties.
Just to answer my own question, yes, I think it is that cut and dry. Give me the Cox, dude. No joke. I'm going to have South Carolina winning this game by probably 21 at least, probably more. I think their defense is that good. This game is at South Carolina. Like Texas A&M, are so much better of a team than Mizzou, and they lost to South Carolina, not to play the transitive property game, but Missouri is that bad of a football team. So I see this game being another blowout like the Alabama and Texas A&M games were. So yeah, give me South Carolina to win. I'm going to say 45-10. That's what I got. I think almost the Texas A&M score, 45-10.
Our next and final game of the episode is Arizona State versus number 16 Kansas State at 7 p.m. ESPN FPI has Kansas State with a 74% chance of winning this game, and the spread in favor of Kansas State by 9. Kansas State is coming right out of a bye week after a gut-wrenching loss to Houston on the road, while Arizona State is coming off a gritty win against UCF. Both teams are actually now probably out of the running of the Big 12 championship unless some chaos happens, which, as this season has shown, very possible. With both teams sitting on 2 losses and Kansas State now being on the bubble of the playoffs, this can be looked as a must-win game. Will a win here for Arizona State be enough for the committee to get them into the top 25? Isaac?
Man, this one's tough because everything about me wants to take the Wildcats. Here's the thing, though. They have been inconsistent this year. They got lucky at Tulane. They lost a tough one, like you just said, Joey, to Houston just a couple of weeks ago. But I'll say this. I don't know much about Arizona State. I'll be honest here, guys. K-State's on the bubble of the playoff. 2 losses. It's a must-win game. It's in Manhattan. Goodness gracious. Yeah, give me Kansas State. I don't think they cover. I like K-State by 6, a touchdown if they're lucky. But I definitely don't think they cover. But I do think that they're able to win this game by virtue of it being a Saturday night in Manhattan. But Kansas State, they've been up and down this year. Of course, they lost a good one to BYU back earlier this year, who BYU is balling. So I like Kansas State this weekend. I think they get the win and stay in the conversation at least for another week.
I'm gonna make this pretty easy. I'm right there with Isaac. I try to really pick games for this show that are hard to pick. This one, unfortunately, I think is a little bit easier. Kansas State, they did have the close losses absolute loss to BYU and then a close one to Houston. But I think coming off of a bye week and it's at home, I think they're going to play well. So give me the Wildcats to win this one against the Sun Devils.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have to pick the Wildcats in this one. Looking over schedules and everything, you just gotta. Yes, Arizona State is only with 2 losses, but who have they played? Utah, who Cam Rising's going on 30 and still eligible to play another year. Oklahoma State, whose running back is supposed to be star talent, but is just now getting to about average. And UCF, who getting a gritty win past UCF, who kind of a middle of the pack team. The rest just not really that great of wins. Meanwhile, Kansas State, beating Arizona, who was supposed to be good at the time, who was number 20 at the time. Oklahoma State, like I said, yes, Ollie Gordon hasn't been performing well, but they were number 20 at the time. And they also beat Colorado, who, as we know now, is a very good team. tough loss to Houston, but I still got Kansas State winning it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will be our show. We've picked the biggest games, in our opinion, of week 5 for you. A couple games that are definitely at the top, but maybe a couple games that aren't really on people's radar. Some of those games, really fun to pick. Some of them really not. Kind of sad, especially for your boy. We'll see what happens, though, this weekend. We just want to ask you guys that if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy watching this, we'd ask you to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, tell people about us. It's just, word of mouth is the way to get people out there to listen to you. And, if you like our content, we'd really, really appreciate it. But yeah, we just thank you so much for listening.
And always remember,
no matter what team you pull for, if you're on God's side, you're always on the winning team. Just know that there is a Father in heaven who absolutely adores you. He loves you. He created you. And if you're not saved, we believe that you need that. If you don't know what the gospel is, the gospel can be summed up like this. Gospel is a Hebrew word that means the good news. But it wasn't just any good news. It was the good news that they'd bring from the battlefield, declaring that the war had been won. And that is the gospel. The gospel is Jesus stepping into your place, dying a death that you deserve because you sinned against God, just like we did. We've all sinned against God, the almighty creator of the universe. And Jesus stepped in our place. Only reason, because he loves us. That's it. Because he loves us. He stepped in our place, died, paid the debt that we deserved, that we needed to pay, paid it for us. And now, if you accept him, you too can live eternity with Jesus and be restored to the Father. How do you get saved? Well, the Bible says that if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and that he raised from the grave on the third day, then you shall be saved. And if you have any more questions about that, you can always reach out to us on our Instagram DMs, on our TikTok and DMs, and you can just leave a comment right here on this YouTube video. We're praying for our listeners. We love you guys, and we would love to talk with you. And this is one of the core foundations and beliefs of TBD CFB. All of us were going through things that, really could have taken our lives, addiction and pride and anger and just so many other struggles. And Jesus set us free. And he's the reason why we're still here today. So we really believe that you guys need to know that. Once again, please like, subscribe, share this video with your friends. This is how we get the gospel out to other people. And we would just love to, reach some people for Jesus. And while we're talking about college football. So love you guys. We're praying for y'all, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Later.